Welcome, beloved friend. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd be truly honored to have you join this growing family of faith and reflection. Every new heart adds something beautiful to our community. This testimony is one of those rare stories that stirs the soul, a moment that challenges what we thought we knew and opens our eyes to the transforming power of Jesus. As you watch, take a moment to let each scene sink in. Feel the weight of the story, the breakthrough, and the undeniable grace that changes everything. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us where you're watching from and share how this journey speaks to your heart. Your thoughts, reactions, and reflections help spark the kind of conversations that inspire faith, healing, and deeper understanding. My name is Nadia, and I grew up in a small town in northern Algeria where the call to prayer echoed 5 times a day. My family was close, simple, loving, and proud of our roots. My older brother, Kareem, was my best friend. He always made me laugh, carried my books to school, and said he would build me a house by the sea when we grew up. Life felt safe with him around. But one morning, everything changed. Kareem went out on his motorbike like he always did, waving goodbye with that carefree smile. By evening, we were standing in front of a hospital, staring at his lifeless body. I remember the smell of antiseptic in the hallway and how my mother screamed his name until her voice broke. I stood frozen, watching her crumble to the floor, feeling like the air had left my chest. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the ceiling, asking questions that no one could answer. Why would God take someone so young? I didn't cry at first. Anger felt stronger than tears. Everyone around me said, "It is Allah's will," but that only made me angrier. If this was His will, I didn't want anything to do with Him. Days turned into weeks, and I stopped praying. I didn't go to the mosque. I avoided people. My heart felt like a dry well, empty, cold, and bitter. I didn't want to hear about God, mercy, or forgiveness. I just wanted my brother back. But grief has a way of finding cracks in the hardest hearts. Sometimes, late at night, I would still whisper Kareem's name, hoping he could hear me. I started dreaming about him. Sometimes he was smiling, other times silent. Yet, deep inside, I felt something else was coming, something I couldn't explain, something beyond the world I knew. It was during one of those restless nights that everything began to change. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet except for the faint ticking of the old wall clock in the hallway. I turned from side to side, trying to force my eyes shut, but my heart was restless. I remember whispering in the dark, "If you are real, why did you take him from me?" It wasn't really a prayer, more like a cry into the silence. Somewhere between my tears and my thoughts, I drifted into sleep. Suddenly, I found myself standing in a wide, open field. The air was calm, and everything around me shone with a soft golden light, though I couldn't see where it came from. In front of me was a figure, a man dressed in white, standing still, facing me. His presence felt gentle, yet powerful. My feet felt rooted to the ground, as if something inside me knew I was not dreaming an ordinary dream. As I looked closer, I noticed something strange about his hands. They glowed, yet I could see deep marks on them, like wounds, but not bleeding. They seemed alive with light. For a moment, fear gripped me. Who was this? Why was he showing me his hands? I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then he lifted his gaze toward me. There was no anger in his eyes, only compassion, the kind that sees through pain and still loves you. He didn't speak with words, but somehow I understood him. He revealed to me that those wounds were because of love, a love that reaches even the most broken hearts. He let me know that he had done it for me, for my pain, for my anger, for the emptiness that had filled my soul. The moment felt heavy and holy. I wanted to speak, to ask him who he was, but my voice wouldn't come out. All I could do was look. I felt warmth spreading through me, melting the coldness that had lived in my heart for months. When I woke up, my pillow was wet with tears. It was still dark outside, but my room didn't feel the same. It felt peaceful. I sat up slowly, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. Part of me thought it was just a dream, but another part, the part that had been aching for meaning, knew it was more than that. Something real had touched me in that dream. The next morning, I woke up with my mind spinning. The dream felt too real to ignore. Every detail stayed with me: the golden light, the man in white, and especially those wounded hands that somehow shone brighter than anything I had ever seen. As I got ready for the day, I kept replaying everything in my head. Who was he? Why did he come to me? What did those wounds mean? I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, maybe something caused by grief. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that the dream carried a message. All day I was distracted. Even when I helped my mother with chores, I kept hearing the silent words he had revealed to me, that he had done it for me. For me. That evening, when everyone had gone to sleep, I took my old phone and sat by the window. The moonlight was soft, and I whispered, "God, if that was you, please show me." My hands trembled as I opened the internet browser. I didn't even know what to type, so I started with "Man with Wounded Hands Dream." The search results surprised me. There were many stories, people from different countries saying they saw someone like that, and they all spoke about a man named Jesus. I froze when I read that name. Growing up, I had heard of him as a prophet, one of many. But these stories said something different: that he was more than a prophet, that he was the Son of God who suffered for mankind. I didn't understand it, but my heart felt drawn in. I clicked another page, and it talked about his crucifixion, how his hands were nailed, how he died, and how he rose again. My eyes filled with tears. Those same wounds I saw in my dream, they were his. I kept reading until my phone battery almost died. Every word seemed to reach into the darkest parts of my heart and fill them with light. I began to see that the man in white wasn't just anyone. He had come to show me that my pain was not forgotten, that my anger and tears had been seen all along. When I finally went to bed, I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time since Kareem died, I felt hope. A quiet, living hope that maybe the God I thought had abandoned me was, in fact, the one who had just reached out to me. The following day, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had read. I wanted to know more about this Jesus, the man who carried wounds in his hands yet glowed with light. I searched again online and found a digital Bible in Arabic. I hesitated for a moment. I had never opened one before. Some part of me was afraid of what I might find. But curiosity, or maybe something deeper, pushed me forward. When I started reading, I didn't know where to begin, so I chose one of the books that appeared in the search, the Gospel of John. The first line caught my attention. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I didn't fully understand it, but something about it felt alive, as if the words were speaking to my heart instead of my mind. Then I came to the part where Jesus was arrested and taken to be crucified. My heart pounded as I read about the soldiers mocking him, the crowd shouting, and the nails being driven into his hands. My mind flashed back to my dream, those same hands, shining with light, yet wounded. I felt a lump in my throat. I kept reading, tears blurring my vision. When the story said he gave his life willingly, I couldn't hold back anymore. It was then I realized he wasn't showing me his wounds to frighten me. He was showing them to tell me that he understood pain, that he had suffered too, not for punishment, but for love. For me. For my brother. For the world. That night, I turned off the light and lay on my bed, thinking about everything. My anger toward God began to crumble. Instead, I felt a strange peace, the kind that doesn't make sense but fills you anyway. I thought of Kareem again, and instead of crying, I whispered, "Maybe you're with him now." For the first time, that thought didn't scare me. The more I read, the more I felt drawn into a story that was not just history, it was alive. Every verse seemed to whisper that love was stronger than death, and forgiveness was more powerful than pain. I didn't know what it all meant yet, but one thing was certain: the man I saw in my dream was real, and he was calling me to know him. As the days passed, I kept reading the Bible quietly, always at night when everyone was asleep. Each time I opened it, I felt warmth and peace, yet also confusion. My heart was drawn to Jesus, but my mind was afraid. In my community, following him was unthinkable. I remembered how people spoke harshly about anyone who turned away from our traditions. What would my family say? What would my friends do if they found out? At first, I tried to push those thoughts away, telling myself that I was only learning, not changing. But deep inside, I knew that something had already started changing. I couldn't pray the same way anymore. I stopped saying words I didn't believe. Instead, I found myself whispering simple prayers from my heart, like, "God, help me know the truth," or, "Show me who you really are." If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We'd be honored to have you join this growing community of seekers and truth lovers. As you listen to this powerful testimony of transformation, we'd love for you to be part of the conversation. Share where you're watching from and what stands out to you in this journey. Your thoughts and reflections aren't just comments. They help shape a genuine dialogue around experiences that have the power to change lives. Some nights I would close the Bible and cry. My heart was torn between two worlds, one that I had known all my life, and another that was calling me with love. I was afraid, yet I couldn't turn back. I began to notice small things around me that reminded me of the dream, a songbird that sang outside my window just as I finished reading, a sudden calmness whenever I whispered the name of Jesus, and a feeling of being watched over even when I was alone. One evening, my mother noticed my quietness and asked if I was still grieving Kareem. I nodded, but I couldn't tell her the truth, that I had found something new inside my grief, something that gave it meaning. I felt guilty, as if I was betraying everything I'd been taught. Yet when I remembered his face in the dream, that look of compassion, I knew I wasn't being deceived. I was being found. Still, the battle inside me grew stronger. I didn't know what to do next. Should I hide this forever? Should I speak? Or should I wait? It was during one of those nights of confusion that something unexpected happened. Something that would guide me toward a decision I could no longer avoid. That night was quiet, the kind of silence where even the sound of your heartbeat feels loud. I couldn't sleep again. My mind was heavy with questions. I had read more of the gospel, and every page seemed to pull me deeper. I wanted to believe, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if this was just a dream that went too far? I turned off my lamp and lay still, staring at the ceiling. My heart whispered, "God, if you're real, please don't leave me confused. I need to know who you are." My eyes began to close slowly, and once again, I slipped into a deep sleep that didn't feel like ordinary rest. In the dream, I was standing near a stream surrounded by light fog. The water flowed softly, and there was a stillness in the air that made me feel safe. Then, from the mist, I felt a presence, calm, strong, and full of peace. I couldn't see his face clearly this time, but I knew it was the same one from before. The same light, the same feeling of love that words could never describe. He revealed to me that I didn't need to be afraid, that the truth I was searching for was not meant to destroy me but to free me. He let me know that the peace I felt when I read the words about the cross was real, that it came from him. I didn't hear words with my ears, but I felt every message inside my heart. It was like someone pouring comfort into my spirit, reminding me that I was loved, seen, and chosen. Then I saw the stream turning brighter, like liquid light. I stepped closer, and as I looked into the water, I saw my reflection, but it wasn't the sad, angry girl I used to be. My face looked peaceful, my eyes calm. I felt the warmth of that presence surrounding me again, and I knew he was showing me what my heart could become if I trusted him. When I woke up, it was still dark, but the peace remained. I sat up, breathing slowly, realizing that the fear was gone. My heart felt settled, quiet, almost new. I knew now that the man I had seen wasn't just a dream or a symbol. He was alive. And somehow, he had chosen to visit me. From that moment, I stopped doubting. I didn't understand everything yet, but I knew I had to follow the truth wherever it led, even if it cost me everything. After that night, my heart was different. I couldn't explain it, but I knew something holy had happened. I began to live quietly, carrying this new faith inside me like a secret flame. I read from the online Bible every day, sometimes only a few verses, but each one felt like a drop of water to my dry soul. Whenever I felt lonely or afraid, I would whisper softly, "You are with me," and somehow peace would return. Still, I knew I couldn't tell anyone, not yet. My family was strict, and in our home, anything outside our faith was not just wrong, it was dangerous. So, I hid it deep within me. I deleted my search history every night, memorized verses so I could read them even when my phone battery was dead, and kept my small prayers hidden behind closed lips. At school, my friends noticed I had changed. I wasn't quick to argue or gossip anymore. I smiled more, and when others complained, I found myself quietly praying for them in my heart. They didn't know it, but I was learning how to love differently, not because I had to, but because something inside me was changing the way I saw people. One afternoon, while walking home, I passed by an old woman sitting by the road. Her face was tired, and she looked hungry. Normally, I would have just walked by, but something inside me pushed me to stop. I gave her the small bread I had packed for lunch. When she smiled and whispered, "May God bless you, my child," tears filled my eyes. In that moment, I realized that this new faith wasn't only about dreams or reading, it was about love, simple and real. But hiding my faith wasn't easy. Some nights, guilt tried to creep in. I wondered if I was being dishonest by keeping it secret. Other times, fear told me that I could lose everything if I ever spoke about it. Yet every time those thoughts came, I remembered his wounded hands shining with light. It reminded me that following him wasn't about comfort, it was about trust. So, I continued quietly, holding on to that faith in secret, praying that one day I would have the courage to live it openly. What I didn't know then was that the time to make that choice was coming sooner than I expected. It wasn't long before my secret faith began to be tested. One afternoon, I was in my room reading quietly when my mother walked in without knocking. I quickly locked my phone, but she had already seen the open page. "What were you reading?" she asked. Her tone wasn't harsh, but I froze. My heart raced. I forced a small smile and said, "Just something about hope and peace." She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed and said, "As long as it's not something strange." She walked out, but I could feel my heart trembling. After that, I became even more careful. I hid my Bible app behind a folder named School Notes. A few weeks later, I faced an even harder test. One of my cousins, Yusef, came to visit. He was older, very religious, and often liked to argue about faith. During dinner, he began talking about other religions, calling them false and dangerous. I kept quiet, but my hands shook under the table. When he noticed, he asked sharply, "What's wrong with you, Nadia? You look uncomfortable." I wanted to say nothing, but something deep inside me, maybe courage, maybe love, made me speak softly. "Sometimes, I think God is bigger than what we understand." The whole room went silent. My father looked up from his plate, and Yusef frowned. He said, "Be careful with words like that." I nodded quickly, pretending to end the talk. But inside, I knew a line had been crossed. I had spoken what I believed, even in a small way. That night I cried. Not because I was afraid, but because I realized following Jesus wasn't going to be easy. I remembered his words from the Bible, about carrying a cross, about standing firm, about loving even when rejected. I understood now, faith was not just about peace, it was about courage. The next morning, I prayed quietly, asking God to give me strength. I said, "Even if I have to walk this path alone, please don't let me lose you." As soon as I finished, I felt a calmness settle over me. It was like a soft whisper in my heart reminding me that no test could take away what he had planted inside me. Days later, I found a small online group of believers from North Africa. They shared stories like mine: secret faith, quiet courage, hidden prayers. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. Reading their messages strengthened me. They reminded me that faith isn't proven by comfort, but by standing firm in love when the world pushes back. And so, even though the tests continued, I kept holding on. Each challenge became a reason to trust deeper, not to fear more. I learned that true peace doesn't mean everything around you is calm. It means your heart remains still, even in the storm. As months passed, the quiet work of God inside me became something I could no longer hide from myself. I was changing, not in a way others could easily see, but deep in my heart. The anger that once burned inside me was gone. The fear that used to follow me had melted away. In its place was a calm strength, a peace that came not from what I had, but from who I had come to know. I started to notice how I treated people differently. When someone spoke harshly to me, I didn't answer the same way anymore. I found myself forgiving faster, showing kindness even when it wasn't returned. It wasn't because I was trying to be good. It just flowed naturally, like water from a spring that had been hidden for too long. I remembered how He had revealed to me that love was stronger than pain, and I wanted that love to reach others, even quietly. Sometimes, I would help a neighbor who was struggling, or visit an old woman who lived alone. I never spoke about my faith, but I prayed for them silently. When I did, it felt like Jesus was right there beside me, smiling, reminding me that every act of love mattered. One afternoon, I met a little boy crying in the market. He had lost the small coins his mother gave him. I helped him find them, and when he smiled, I felt something stir in me, the same joy I once had when Kareem was alive. I realized then that God was restoring parts of me I thought were gone forever. The more I walked with Him, the more I began to see purpose in the story of my life. My brother's death had broken me, but through that brokenness, God had reached me. The dream, the pain, the searching, they were all part of a plan to bring me to His love. At times, I still missed Kareem deeply. But now, when I thought of him, I didn't cry with bitterness. Instead, I whispered prayers, asking that he too had found peace in God's light. I didn't have to announce my faith to the world to know it was real. It showed in how I lived, in how I forgave, in how I loved. Every morning before the sun rose, I would whisper, "Thank you, Jesus, for finding me." The girl who once hated God for her pain had become a girl who trusted Him with her whole heart. Now when I look back on everything, the loss, the anger, the dreams, the search, and the peace that followed, I see how patient God was with me. He didn't rush me. He didn't force me. He waited, gently knocking on the door of my heart until I was ready to open it. I realize now that His love never left me, not even in the darkest moments when I thought He had turned away. I've learned that walking with Jesus is not about having a perfect life. It's about learning to trust Him when nothing makes sense. It's about believing that His wounds are proof of love, not weakness. The same hands I saw shining in my dream, the hands that carried scars, are the same hands that hold my life now. To anyone who believes, I want to say this: hold on to your faith even when it feels hard. Love one another deeply, not just in words but in actions. When people hurt you, forgive. When you see someone in pain, reach out to them. That's how the world sees Jesus, through the quiet love of those who follow Him. Don't forget to pray, even when your heart feels dry. Prayer is not always about asking. Sometimes it's just sitting in silence, letting Him fill you with peace. And study God's Word as often as you can. It's not just a book, it's life itself. Every time you open it, He speaks.